Thank you very much for the very nice introduction and also for the audience to have come here. It is usual for a presenter to talk about something that he or she likes. Sometimes he or she is too much obsessed with it. It will be your judgment to make whether I am too much obsessed with it or not. The title of the talk will be The Limited Power of Words in Social Behavior. First, I wanted to put a question mark after limited, but after some limited time of thinking, I thought I will not use the question mark. You will see probably why I don't. Because I really believe that even if we love words, it's not everything, and it is to some extent limited. I will share with you as an introduction, I hope you can read it here, but it was also put on the web, and then we will start. So following the origins of digital humanities, which used to be called literary and linguistic computing for some time, from the beginnings, text has always been central to it. However, when one gives a closer look at the words these texts are made of, a whole new world opens before our eyes. Words are just the expression of what can hardly be expressed by words, and this is human behavior. When we linguists study words, we are happy to assign certain phonetic, phonological, morphological functions to them. We study the relation between consecutive, adjacent or non-adjacent words as parts of a sentence, etc. So we love words. And we try to extract the meaning that the text conveys. And we like to rely on what we dig out of words. This is the focus that I want to change, at least for some minutes here. The question arises, can one truly understand and interpret thoughts, reflections, intentions based on words alone? And also, how much of all this can be traced back by following non-verbal events, like gestures, and not only gestures, you will see it. Do gestures contribute to disambiguating words, or do they rather mask the unspoken context? And in any case, how objectively can we judge and react to a social interaction of competing verbal and non-verbal events? So, these are the questions that I have been preoccupied with together with my students and my group in the past few years. But whereas the talk will address such questions based on data from our corpus, these and similar issues have their actuality in recent far-reaching social debates like what in Germany is called 9 heißt 9, or 2 years ago in California they introduced a law, yes means yes. I think there are people here who understand what the meaning and the connotations of 9 heißt 9 and yes means yes means. In the end, I would like to arrive here, but first of all, I would like you to be part of an experiment. We are quite a few here, and quite a few sympathetic people. It's part of preparations for an experiment, because you have to encourage people not to be afraid and behave normally. Okay, so I just stepped out of my role as a presenter. Okay, you will have a task. The task is very, very simple. You will see patterns. The whole story today will be about patterns. So you will see patterns consisting of a series of dots. You will see the dots. Your task is to tap or clap, make noise, as many times as many dots you see. Do you understand? Okay. And the purpose will be explained later, if we are successful. If not, even then. So, but the first, I will I am not a conductor, but I will show when you start. Otherwise, I will not influence you at all. Okay. There is one more only. Okay. I was a bit excited. You were also excited, I think. But did you notice? I don't want to help you, but how did you work together? Could anyone give me his or her impression? Yes? Yes? Made claps, etc. Yeah. Everybody tried it. How uniform were you? Exactly. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. We did not talk before this. And a normal experiment is not that doesn't follow like this. But do you agree with this? Because this is what I wanted to show you. That is in the big. Let's do it once again, but because now you know everything. It will not be an experiment now. It will be something else. So start it now. You see? Do the second one. So, it is better and better. I think it cannot be better anymore. So what happened here? Who can explain what happened here now? Yes, please? What? Oh no, oh no, oh no. We are not. I have written it here. So the purpose was to demonstrate how different modalities of perception and production collaborate in performing in performing an event of communication. They collaborated. You collaborated. There was visual perception, there was auditory perception, and there was motor production. How did it work? You saw something. That was a pattern. You saw it, so your visual perception interpreted it somehow. And your task was to clap, and you did. Do you remember how you did it in the very beginning? It was not a disaster, but it was not very uniform. But then, auditory perception came in. And you heard, somebody said it also, that one started and the other started to. So you heard something, you heard this rhythm, and you try to accommodate yourself to what you hear. And sooner or later, quite soon by the way, everybody worked together, using visual perception, using auditory perception, feedback all the time, and the motor representation. These were three modalities. We were unconscious about it. All we were guided by was a desire to communicate. And this desire to communicate, it comes from ourselves. We always want to communicate. We always want to send out signals, receive signals, understand the signals as patterns, and make some responses to these patterns. So this small experiment is now over. We go to something else, but don't forget that we have in our cognition we have some mechanism that is fine-tuned to identify patterns and replicate them across all modalities without any voluntary desire to do so. By the way, this is not your performance. This is a performance of 60 students. The distance between, the temporal distance between the claps or mouse clicks, whatever you choose, they are very regular. They are very regular. When you had, you clap like this, then in the middle there was a longer pause. You see the longer pause on the vertical axis, the longer pause. When it was the opposite pattern, then you see it as a V form, in the other hand. So it is quite regular. The overall motor representation of patterns across modalities is highly regular. It is not only regular, but our recent, still unpublished, results using MRI show that this integration of different kinds of perception for pattern recognition takes place in the putamen. It's called the putamen, this colored thing. It's there. So there are certain structures in units in our brain which are fine-tuned to identify and follow patterns. The recognition of patterns is key to moving around in the world by perceiving, understanding, interpreting, and responding to them, whatever the patterns are. So from this point of view, behavior is about detecting various physical and non-physical social signals, forming patterns out of them, and placing them in a systemic environment, context in other ways, in which responses can be generated as a selection of other matching patterns. Like in an everyday conversation, you ask a question, you expect a response. Of course, it is possible to ask a question and answer with a question, but it has a different function. Just an example. Human behavior is based on two main pillars, verbal and non-verbal. Whereas there is a delicate balance between the two, they are to promote and enhance each other, whatever the medium of communication. So even if you are sending an SMS, most people will support the view that an SMS also has some audible message behind the words. Therefore, in order to understand words, we need to consider what is nonverbal, and conversely, in order to understand gestures and the non-lexical aspects of speech, we need to consider the word itself. We know far less about where in the brain and how the integration of verbal and non-verbal information during a social interaction takes place than however little we know about the integration of simple visual and auditory patterns across modalities that our little experiment was about. So on this long way to go, we need to capture as much and as varied multimodal data of behavior as possible across topics and cultures. I have to emphasize here also cultures. We are here people who come from different cultures, and I hope there will be moments when some will not agree with us, some will agree with somebody else. And try to understand how seemingly unrelated events are joined into sensible patterns of behavior. So it is a vision to study when we talk about behavior and humans in general. So the challenge is great, and because it is great, in contrast to our experiment with dots and Gestalt in general, it was psychological, it was a Gestalt what we did, Gestalt experiment. where patterns are ingrained in our cognition in a unified way, regardless of the modality. These patterns are ingrained there. There's no question about it. We are born with this very, very simple grouping of whatever events they are. The patterns that are formed from words are the result of our highly organized linguistic system, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, not to mention phonetics and phonology, and their connection to those systems of gestures which are made through complex biological and social filters and gateways. We don't know about them. We don't know how these filters and these gateways work together, but they do. When we behave, when we just look out of the window, we don't hear what somebody is speaking, but just see the gestures, then we try to interpret the gestures themselves and try to associate them with words, by the way. The essence is that one needs to find patterns of verbal and non-verbal events where none of the events is obligatory and their sequences need not be based on strict adjacency, follow one after the other. I give you an example. When you agree with someone, then the stereotype is that you say yes. And when you say yes, then you nod. And what happens if you don't say yes? You just nod. Your counterpart will understand that he or she is in agreement with you. And what if neither nodding, neither yes is there? Still, somehow, you know that the guy is agreeing with you. So this is the challenge, how to know it. An example of a corpus that intends to meet at least some of these challenges is what Elizabeth kindly already mentioned, the Hukamte corpus, which is based on 220 dialogues of an entire length of 50 hours, annotated extensively for a high number of verbal and non-verbal features. I will show you how this corpus looks like from the point of view of Elan. Who knows the annotation tool Elan? Some of you may know it. It's one of the possible environments, a very good environment for multimodal annotation, where video, audio are presented at the same time when text is there, and using an arbitrary but down to millisecond accuracy, you can annotate whatever you want. So, for example, here we annotated extremely many things. The letter A means audio. That is, the annotators, and they were quite a few. The team consisted of 100 people. Audio, based on audio only. Transcription, of course, audio. Then emotions, I have to say perceived emotions, not the emotions that the person who was the subject of the object of the recording was experiencing, but what the observer experienced. That's very much different. There's a much difference between them. Still, perceived emotions. Discourse markers from the linguists will know these things, etc. And then we have sentences. There is a very extensive, let us say, extensive syntactic annotation of 50 hours of speech, which is interesting for the following reason. When you speak the spoken language, you have an idea, and it comes at the fraction of a tiniest fraction of time, and then you want to perform it, you want to say it, and then you use motor movements. Your whole articulatory basis is moving, including your tongue and the palate, etc. So it takes time. You don't notice it, but it takes time to translate your idea into audible audible linguistic form. So it takes time, but at the same time, you may develop a new idea. And this new idea is also very rapid, and it will intervene in the articulation of the previous thought. So sentences will be cut. They will become chunks only. And it is very interesting to see how incomplete sentences follow one after the other in a conversation, depending on the person, depending on the topic, depending on lots of things. So it is one of the aspects of the annotation which, if you make, then it will give you new insights into behavior and cognition and many other things. We also annotated automatically speech melody, which is different from what you get if somebody knows, for example, the program Praat. It's different because this is not what corresponds to your perception. Your perception is much less detailed. It says, oh, she is speaking at a constant tone or slower, etc. So we did this annotation as well. Then the letter V says, indicates it is video only. Gaze, for example, blinks, where you look at, right, left, up, down. Also millisecond, not millisecond, actually 320 milliseconds accuracy. That is how we did it. Eyebrows, when you are concerned with something, or you are looking for the answer, then your brows are moving. It is also annotated. Head shift. Can you see it from your distance? What I am saying. Hand shape, touch motion, what you touch, and so on. What is also interesting, those who know what is pragmatics is the environment in which, the study of the environment in which various signals, patterns show up. That is pragmatics somehow. It's not a patented definition what I gave you now. And we annotated multimodal pragmatics, that is when audio and video were there together, or when only unimodal pragmatics, only audio was there. And finally, webmouse. Who knows webmouse? I hope you will know it later. It's one of the nicest things that I have come across. Through this community, through Digital Humanities community, it is a result of collaboration of German universities, of Clarindé, who have prepared a whole network of computers all around Germany to do various analyses of text. And we also did, assigning a start point and an end point to every word that was spoken in the 50 minutes. And what is even nicer is that the whole system was made for German, and our language is Hungarian. But it also works for Japanese. So much about this. Well, if you want to see how that works, I start this recording here. Actually, it speaks, but it doesn't matter. So you see that there are transcriptions. There are also. I could put it here. No problem. It's no problem because it is Hungarian, and it's just. So it is, you can see how the whole thing proceeds here. I don't want to show it anymore here because this is not the main topic for ourselves, but I wanted to show you the environment that we base our work on. So this was the Elan annotation environment. I showed it to you. And now the question comes, and probably everything that I have said so far was just a preparation for what I would like to concentrate on. So what can be seen from the data? But in ESU and in all the workshops, we deal with data. And the question is always there. What do we do with the data? First, we have to collect, and we clap. We are very happy. We have done so much. But, okay, what do we learn from this data? Especially when it is behavior. As I told you, and you have experienced it, it is nice, the collaboration of senses is very nice when the story is so simple. But when words come in, not to mention gestures, the whole system is here in our cognition, but we don't know how it works, and how shall we gather the data from this. So the first approach is descriptive analysis. Why not? We count how much we have of something. I will give you some examples here. The UP agreement, it is part of the annotation. UP meaning unimodal pragmatic annotation. Only video was seen, the audio was not heard. Those who are linguists and who know pragmatics, they say that pragmatics without words is nothing. Because. But if you, just because, look out of the window, you have to interpret what people are doing outside. It is also pragmatics, but you don't hear any word. So this is pragmatic annotation, unimodal pragmatic annotation, and the labels that we assigned to them were full agreement, default agreement, or disagreement. Now, the description says almost 2/3 of the cases we have full agreement. And the default is very suspicious, by the way. What does it mean, default? 1/3 is almost default. That means we didn't further subclassify agreement. So, that's it. That's what we know. Attention was another aspect of the annotation. Again, 2/3 calling attention and 1/3 paying attention. Now, from this, you can already gather something. How these were interviews, I forgot to mention. These were interviews. It was a formal interview, job interview. Of course. Well, the guy who was the subject of the interview was paying attention 1/3 of the time. Interesting. And 2/3 of the time was calling attention. So he was, in that recording, he was probably the active person. But I will ask the question, an important question after this page, whether this interpretation is valid at all. Turn management meaning I give the turn to you, speak. I take the turn, stop, I want to speak. I grab the turn if you don't want to give it to me, etc. So in the unimodal pragmatic management, turn management, we could not somehow we could not get these features. Only start speaking and then speaking. You may wonder, how is it that you start speaking 49% and more than 50% is end speaking? How is it? How is it? Just because, not because if you started you didn't end, you are still speaking. No, but because the visual signs of starting or ending, they were not quite obvious. But this 1% difference is not at all. Nothing significant at all, probably, if we just look at it. The multimodal pragmatic annotation, we had topic change, topic elaboration, topic initiation for the agent. The agent, the one who was the boss, who was leading the conversation, and the other one was the speaker. The second one, the speaker. It's a mistake. The first is agent, the second is speaker. Interestingly, the speaker, that is the one who was the object of job interview, he did not change the topic. You see? We didn't have any data about him changing the topic. Probably we understand it. Why? Turn keep, turn take, turn give, they also have some statistic. We have some statistics about it. Let's see something else. Now using webmouse, where we had the time alignment of every word. We want to see if somebody says yes, that is igen in Hungarian, how is it associated with any function in the visual annotation? Only 2 cases. There were only 2 cases, and they were full agreement. This is what is written like only 1 was agreement. Nem meaning no, just 1, and this is somebody was loudly thinking, was a full agreement 3 times. Just descriptively we can say this. The attention, unimodal attention with igen was not observed at all. Attention. That is, the annotator was following the visual image and didn't hear anything. It was not manifested that there was any attention like a motive in the visual environment. Yes, 3, they were paying attention, and which is loud speaking, 25 times, 49% calling attention, and 16 times paying attention. This is how they interpreted the visual signs without hearing by the way. Agent, topic, and speaker blink. Now they saw it. And it was multimodal, by the way, multimodal. There was 1 blink around the same time as a topic elaboration started. There was a blink of the speaker. So the agent started elaboration and the speaker blinked. Only 1 case. When the speaker started an elaboration, there were 12. In absolute numbers, it would suggest to you, that's interesting. Maybe this is already a pattern, but only, we have to be very, very careful. 1 against 12 or 12 against 1. We don't know anything else about the statistical environment here. Communicative act, like acknowledging or constative, you are right, like this. There were 12 blinks when the speaker was conveying kind of an agreement, constative message. He blinked twice, 12 times. And when there was a new information, the speaker also blinked. Now, we annotated the blinks all the time. These were the blinks that were associated, at least with the temporal alignment, they were associated with certain functions. But whether they are of any use, these data, we don't know from this statistics. So the question remains, what do we learn from these descriptive data about a given behavior? How significant can a piece of data be? How characteristic to the given interaction is it? That's what we don't know. We don't know because we are looking for alignments that is under the assumption that what happens now, and if there are many things that happen at the same time, then it must be significant, somehow, intuitively. That is, when you say yes and you nod, fine. So this is the story behind it. The alignment. You search for alignments. What else can you do? You do searches for adjacency. Adjacency, that is, what is it followed by? What is it, anything, preceded by? But you don't, and then you get some data, and you will be very happy with these data, because you didn't know it. Now, whether they are significant or not, that's another story, and this is our story here. Because, for example, you can find your own examples if you want to describe how to open a door with a key, for example. It's easy. You say, I reach for the key in my pocket, I take it out, I aim at the keyhole, and then I inserted it, I turn it, etc. Okay? If a Mars, how do you call it? An alien looks at you, then we learn it easily. What happens if at the same time, when you are inserting the key in the keyhole, a fly flies across your eyes? I mean, in front of your face. The alien would say, "You need a fly." Of course, you don't need you don't need a fly, even if it is a mücke, how do you say it, a mosquito. If you a mosquito and you want to kill the mosquito, it doesn't belong to this pattern of opening the key, opening the lock. So adjacency is nice, but it doesn't necessarily have to be adjacency. And then we arrive at a different approach by a psychologist who has been working on his own story of human behavior for 30 years now. Magnusson is his name. You can find pattern vision if you search for it. And there will be also a software which is free for education purposes for smaller chunks of text, or not only text, anything. Wait a minute. I think I forgot to put here one screenshot, which tells you how it works. It does not simply look for alignments of events. It doesn't look for adjacent events one after the other, but it tries to find a relation between any two events, regardless of how far they are allocated in time, but they must be in time. And then the most important advantage is that you set a certain p-value, that is a probability, significance, and then it will show you, it will dig you out those patterns which correspond to, which meet those significance requirements. Perceived emotions is the next slide. You see a lot of dots. These are events of emotions: happy, sad, surprise, etc. Across 700,000 milliseconds, by the way, or a bit more. And then you try to find what emotion patterns can be found in that recording that I showed you before. And you see one pattern is the following, which I show you on the board. You begin being happy, and then you end being happy. Why not? And after that, you begin recalling something, and then you end up recalling something. The full vertical lines show those patterns where you have all these four events. So happy, starting happy, ending happy, and beginning to recall and ending recall. This is a pattern. It is not the case that for every instance of happy, ending happy, ending being happy, it is followed by starting being recalling something. But what you see here is what has a statistical significance. to show you that it is a pattern. And now you can start thinking. You can start thinking how being happy and and recall, how are they associated with each other? Yes, it will probably, you guess it, show you an interview. It was a pleasant interview. The interviewee was happy, and then got an answer and started recalling something. But happy doesn't always follow, is followed by recall. It can be followed by other. The annotators couldn't classify it into Ekman's clear categories, but they saw that there was something different than from neutral, and they were quite a few, as you see, which happened quite often. But the patterns that the full vertical lines show, only a few times. Another one, ending recalling, ending showing some other emotion, and beginning another emotion, ending it, and then finally end being happy. So while you were happy, there must have been some little signs of being not so happy. But so showing some other emotion, signs of emotions as well. Another example: head, hand, and posture. Head. What do you do with your head? How do you move it? How do you move your hands? And how do you move on the chair, because they were sitting? The blue shows these head, hand, and posture patterns. All the rest, the red, they were outside of head, hand, and posture patterns. They were like syntax, they were web mouse, they were eyebrows, etc., which did not belong to any pattern with head, hand, and posture, but they were there. You can ask how reliable these assignments to patterns with this mechanism can be. And this software does the following. It randomizes the data using different algorithms. And if the randomized data are different, show different percentages of patterns discovered, then it means that that your behavioral data are reliable. And the second green column shows that if your pattern consists of at least three events, then it is absolutely reliable. Not to mention if it is a longer event, 4 or 5. Another one, head. You start turning your head, and then you finish turning your head. And somehow you cross your fingers, that is your hand. It comes into the picture. Then you end crossing finger, and again you start crossing your fingers. As you see here in the lower areas of this graph, you have a lot of crossing fingers. Now, they have a significance. They are statistically significant. You can take them seriously. And you can learn about the person, and if you have several other recordings, and you compare them, you make searches across the recordings, then you can arrive at some generalizations about how people respond to questions, or how male and female respondents differ from each other, etc. Another one, okay, crossing fingers and then turning the head. They are realistic. These are not just simply happen by chance, but it is a behavior pattern. I never thought that it was anything of a significant sort. Crossing fingers and turning your head. Psychologists would love, and I hope they will love these data and many other data, because they will try to go further and find. We don't have the instrumentation yet to find how is crossing fingers and turning the head, how are they connected? We know much more about the noun and the verb, that they make a sentence. How wonderful. We know much less about it. But probably the story is the same, but very, very complex so far. Now, nodding. It's a stereotype. I put it here specifically, that you agree and you nod, of course. That's what we say. But nodding did not form any pattern with any other event. Not the head, not the posture, not the hand, nothing. Strangely enough, nothing. If we go and see some other participants in the experiment, maybe nodding will show up with someone else. In one year, in our workshop, we noticed differences. How someone nodded, absolutely not moving anything. You know, send her my greetings. And some others here, everything moved. Everything moved. Another one, now with words. I wanted to find association with these wonderful web mouse and annotated words, alignments, or patterns with these words, like igen meaning yes, nem meaning no. It didn't find any patterns. I tell you because there were few examples of these words, but there were more examples of and this was there. Oh no, sorry. First, not the but the it was quite frequent. For example, the head turns. Did you see it on the left side? So you have to read it from top to bottom. Head turns, and then the head stops turning, and then the guy says, So the guy doesn't say, when the head is turning, or between, when the head is between starting and ending turning, but it starts saying, when he or she has finished turning the head. So, and then does it several times. As I say, the second cluster is about and the third is also about Here, turn, and it is the longest pattern that was found with this word or whatever it is. Now, it is also interesting to find. We are going towards in the direction of stereotypes, markers of behavior, and we are going towards questions which I would like to ask about the social use of knowledge about behavior. If, for example, somebody twinkles, what does he do with the eye? A young man does this. Looks at a young girl. It has a message, right? And it can be misunderstood also. So the question is whether any event, any behavior event can be a marker of a larger behavior. And this is a nice question, and we have the tools that we try to learn and to use it more and more to arrive at identifying certain particular events which are definitely markers of a behavior of one person, maybe not another one, or maybe a marker for everyone in one culture and not another, or across cultures. So I don't think we have too much time, Elizabeth. What do you think? I'm not finishing it yet, but I could go on and show you and entertain you if you find it at all entertaining, show you lots of other examples which are here, but I have a lot of questions which I would like to discuss with you. Maybe one or two Okay, we have one or more examples. Like, for example, here, topic, that is, you initiate a topic. Multimodal, linguists are happy because it's based on words. And then, what do you do with your gestures when the topic is initiated? And here are the patterns, quite a few patterns. The whole horizontal lines show that starting from initiating a topic, going down to everything, they make a pattern. Gaze. Topic initiation is associated with gaze. Gaze down and gaze forwards. First, the gaze is down. The speaker initiated the topic first, and not looking at the eyes of the agent. First, he or she started speaking. He, in this case, and then looked at the agent. That's how it started. We also know, we have statistics. We can have exact timing data, how that happened. Gaze down, then gaze forwards, then again gaze down, and then finishing gaze down. So topic initiation with just manipulating with the gaze is not just like I look into your eyes, but first I say something according to this pattern. And this guy, I look down, probably as a result of thinking first, and then I start, look into your eyes, but I don't want to be intrusive, or I don't know why. Why is it? I, again, look down. And you know how long that happens. Again, a small excursion from this data. You know that if somebody is looking into your eyes too long, it has some functions. And it maybe the intention is bad, maybe the person has some problem. So psychologists can use it, law enforcement can use it, etc. When you know what is the naturally occurring intervals of between events or the duration of a certain event. Now that is turn management. Turn management and a lots of So it was a very hard turn management, as I understand here. On the upmost horizontal line, you have 3 patterns. Do you see? See, just under the title. Do you see? They correspond to complex patterns, and they show you that somehow they really make one and the same pattern. There are differences that we are humans, but they correspond to very similar patterns. Starting the turn and paying attention, finishing paying attention, then turning again. This is what it is about, if you can read it on the left side. Agreement at uhum. Now, first uhum, and then visual signs of agreement, and then visual signs of turn management. That is, you finished your turn. Now, and there are statistics descriptive statistics which show you the distances between various events. Thank you. The only thing is I don't know how to use it. Okay. Oh, fantastic. So you have it. Again, now you will see that all the green columns show that these are patterns which are not found by chance. That's very important. So that, okay, if the pattern consists of two elements, the red says, okay, there are some patterns which are a result of chance, but starting from 3 up to everything, that's already a pattern which cannot happen by chance. It is up to the researcher to find out whether it has any significance, by the way, because the computer doesn't know what it means, gaze down, it doesn't know agreement, partial agreement, etc. So you have to analyze and to assign any sense to these patterns, but you are helped quite a lot. Again, topic management, not another one. Multiple topic management, a lot of topics are managed here. They consist of several steps. Some are even longer, like this, very long, consisting of many steps, many small events. Here it is also a very small, very long event, but they are all made of smaller chunks of already patterns. So, finally, after all this, I would like to ask a few questions. I have asked it for myself, and I would like to you two also join me in discussing all this, because more questions remain unsolved than before. I would say, patterns are everywhere. We know it now. In language acquisition, dialectology, language change, author attribution, stylistics. I just wanted to name a few which are also subjects here here. But criminology, psychology, etc. Everywhere we have patterns. Now, what do we do with these patterns? You remember that we were looking for patterns when we did the small experiment with the dots, and we were so happy to find the patterns and also to communicate with each other across modalities to accommodate ourselves into one single pattern. That would be nice with words as well, to unite ourselves and think in the same way, act in the same way. Now, so this is a very nasty background behind my questions here. That is not so easy. Stereotypes, like nodding, as was my example. It is a result of ever-present cognitive statistical generalizations. We always draw statistics. We always do some pattern recognition. And the more we recognize patterns, the more familiar we are with these patterns. But I will come later back to the stereotypes, but maybe I will say it now. As you remember, we had these long patterns. Long patterns. Sometimes we like to choose just a part of this pattern without any regard to the rest of the patterns, before or after, like somebody is blinking at you, not paying attention to why, not paying attention to what preceded it, what followed it, and it can be very tricky to use stereotypes, but we cannot be without stereotypes. That is a part of our life. Now the next word is trust. Trust. We trust people. We trust some people. Why do we do so? You can help me, and you can say that I am wrong. I would say that we trust people who we know, we say. But what does it mean we know these people? We know the patterns. We know his or her patterns, and we are familiar with it. And then if we come across with those patterns of behavior, and we also know the consequences, so that we can trust this person. Misunderstandings also lead, not perfectly knowing patterns leads to misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. You don't follow, maybe you don't know the whole sequence of events as a pattern. You just notice one part of it and another one, and it leads to misunderstanding. Prejudice, okay, prejudice. We are very sad to know that it exists. And part of it, I would say, is the reason. Part of the reason is that we don't have the time or the patience to follow a whole sequence of behavioral events and see the consequences of one and the other and the third event in that chain. And we simply solve the story and we have the prejudice. Okay, sorry, hate, Fremdenhass is there. Similis simile gaudet. We know it. We don't have to be very proud of it. It's a very old saying that we follow someone and we praise someone who is like us. Now, another story is observation periods. So what to do with these events? How can we, if we can avoid these nasty things or help other people? Observation period. As I have said, we need a longer period to observe someone. But there are patterns which are culturally embedded. Culturally embedded. So they are in you. Certainly they are engraved in your genes. Another one, attention. How long can you pay attention to someone else to learn something from him or her? The duration is a factor here, and the depth. Depth is a different thing than duration. You can superficially watch or listen to the guy without understanding anything. So superficiality of observation is also bad. Our students who did the annotations, to say something more amusing, when they had to annotate emotions or attention or lots of pragmatic things, they didn't start out immediately. They observed, they decided, they came to this conclusion themselves to follow the recording for several minutes until they said, we learned them. And it is an ability in all of us. It is in our cognition in a much more complicated way than we did with the dots, but very much the same. So we want to find the patterns. We want to accommodate ourselves to this. So that's what they did, and that's why we can trust somehow in their annotation. Observation modalities. What do you observe? First, it's also a question of availability. What is available? Is it a telephone call? A telephone call is different. You miss out something. And you have to be very careful. I think we have to be very careful not to make the very same conclusions or try to find the very same patterns as when every modality is there. For example, when we annotated the unimodal pragmatics, there's video only, and annotated multimodal pragmatics, video plus audio, then linguists advised us to use a ready-made lexicon or set of labels ready-made from based on texts. And I said, no. And we agreed, not only, of course, I said, but also the others. We agreed, no. We had to find a different set of labels, different set of patterns were to be identified just using or observing the video, then video plus audio. It is also by no means it is a chance that the audio, emotion recognition by our students is not automatic. Based on the audio, was very different from emotions taken from video. And the third, that video plus audio, again, a third set of annotations, and they are there. They are there in the data. They are different because the modalities are different. So, and you have individual choice as well. You are not interested in something. So you don't observe the full human being. If it is possible at all, I don't know. Now there is also, I perceive an imbalance of modalities. For example, there are individual preferences. And then also the effect of presentation of stimuli, attraction or distraction, all this affect cross-modal integration in perception and response. So a audio signal comes in, video signal comes in, but if you have your preference, then the integration, if you lean towards one modality, then the integration will not be the same as if you didn't have any preference. So two people may disagree, judging the very same situation, very often, and one of the reasons can be that their preference of choosing the given modality is different. You cannot do anything with this. We are humans, we are different. Cheating, is it possible? You mean, cheating how cheating to show something different than what is inside you. You understand? Yes, like the poker face, but I don't want to make another experiment with you. It is very, very funny. Try to turn left. Turn your head left, and at the same time look up right. Who could do it? Who could not do it? Quite a few. So we are not in much danger in a way. Our cognition is our good guidance in some way. Statistics. I presented here a possible set of statistics. I say a possible because it is just one way of looking at these patterns. You always make your own statistic assessment of the observed world, and the two will not coincide. And what is commonly perceived as patterns is necessarily a subset of the theoretically available maximal sequence of events. It leads to stereotypes in a reduced way. Now, something better. Helping hand of words. I talked to a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, he's a good linguist. I talked to him about my concerns about words, etc. He said, don't hurt yourself. And then he said something that I am saying now, and I agree with him. Understatements are very useful. Sometimes very annoying, but sometimes very useful, because you don't say go out, huh? You don't say it. You say it somehow else. So face saving is there, for example. Politically correct. Some people are very much against it, because it is difficult to process. Very difficult to process. Much more than just say yes or no. But we already know that we also have And words help us in facilitating our conversation. making it easier to start, to conclude, or even enter into further elaboration. And finally, 9 heißt 9? Was heißt was? Thank you.